I'll be coming up with some stuff for Josh and the AI. And then also, I'm going to be looking at the actual sales proposals between this year and last. I looked over a few of Josh's and year between last year and this year and see if that's what our closing rate problem is. Um, because that's my first hunch. And my second one is, people holding on to their money a little bit tighter. But why would they get a quote if they aren't, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
if they aren't looking? Like I get it from maybe a commercial aspect of things, let's see what the price is now, and especially people that are forward thinking about, oil and what maintenance do we need now, or what everything do we need now. Um, but yeah, so I'll be digging into that and seeing what might be, and comparing across researching across the nation if there's any studies just as far as purchases being down in general here. So I'll be digging into that.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I mean, and maybe it is people holding on to money because our pricing is essentially the same. I think I don't know what it is. Maybe it's length of time that a lead comes in before they're getting a proposal.
Hmm.
Maybe he's not getting them uh, back as quickly as I was. Maybe there's something to that. I mean, a lot of the times,
Hmm.
and it's no excuse now, but we were so strapped for cash and strapped for work and trying to keep the guys busy. Like, I mean, I would get a lead in, and sometimes if I could find a good Google image and had enough information from either, just a text message or somebody filling out the contact submission form, on the website, like I was getting them a proposal within 10 or 15 minutes, and a lot of those were coming right back. So I don't know if there's an element of it that we were striking while the iron was hot and they were in buying mode,
Yeah.
and now we're giving them the opportunity to get, or maybe we may have been the only proposal at that point. Now they've got, if they're getting a week to 10 days to get two or three proposals, now they've got more to, information to sift through. So maybe they're either taking longer to make a decision, or maybe um the first guy in's getting the business, or maybe the last guy in's getting the business, or maybe we're just having more comparison to our proposals by giving them more time to think about it, or we're giving them time to talk themselves out of doing it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to consider here. Because
There
also
is.
is the factor of like overloading Josh. I mean, look at the last 2 days. This is 5, 10, about 16 or 17 phone calls. That doesn't count website submissions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
last year fielding 1 to 3 of these a day versus 5 to 7, you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
it really, there's a, well, I'll keep thinking about this. I'll analyze the transcript and do some creative, thinking and exploration as well. Um, but I think there's, just from our point of view, we have to kind of take the consumer maybe not spending as much out of the equation and just see what else we can do. But if it comes down to supporting Josh and making sure that I mean, we're doing what we can as far as helping him with the actual measurements, looking into True Tech and all these different things. And as I said, the task for this week, as far as helping Josh, um, so it's logging into his Gemini account, which I've already checked out, and just see what he's using and seeing if we can
Yep.
create some custom things for him right there in Gemini. These Gemini
Yeah.
gems are really good for quick things. I'm going to record him, a tutorial for each. I'm going to go through those 17 processes and see which one of those I'm going to suggest to Josh and see if any of them, he said all of them look great. But see, if we were to map out this year, like what realistically can we improve about the sales process out of these 17 things and other things? What's the
Yeah.
priority here for you and what's going to make the most sense? So I'll be excited to dig into that. Yeah, maybe it's about
I,
giving them a little more, man, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I think economy uncertainty is definitely a part of it from a residential consumer standpoint. I mean, when they see, I mean, gas prices almost double in the matter of 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, it just makes me wonder if people aren't just kind of waiting to see what happens with this thing in Iran. But I don't know. And look, I mean, I was in here, most mornings, and it's been a little off the last 2 weeks. Andre was out last week. Tony's going to be out this upcoming week, so I'm going to be strapped to the field. But most mornings, I'm in here for an hour or two at least after we have our morning meeting, letting the crew get out and get started on the prep before I kind of show up to the job site. So like yesterday, for instance, I think I sat in here and I just went through the stuff that was sitting in lead, and I think I found 3 or 4 of them that I could find a pretty good Google image off of. And I'm just trying to help Josh stay caught up to where
Yeah.
we're getting these people some stuff as quick as possible. And I think that's going to improve um, as I get more and more out of the field. I mean, I almost think until we get to the point where like, oh shit, maybe we do need a second salesperson. Like, I think my primary function this year is going to be more on the sales side,
Yeah.
sales networking, hopefully getting more involved with like, the chamber events and the BIA events and things like that, and just getting the brand out there a little more diligently than we have been in the past couple of years. But I mean, right now, I mean, sales are literally they're everything. We've kind of set this thing up with our asset purchases and our hires and our pay structures and our budgets, that we need to get to that $4 million mark. Whatever we need to do to get there, that's probably the most important thing we can be doing.
Yeah, definitely you
You
being
know,
off the paver is a great thing to pursue then. Because yeah, you can where
it is.
the leads are there, so until we can develop the technology or, discover the
They are
team
there.
where this process becomes almost completely automated except for the point where you're making sure like the measurement looks correct on the driveways. You know what I mean? I can see that happening this year too, to not necessarily have to hire another salesperson more immediately. But also just you helping Josh, you know what I mean? Pick off those few because it's going to keep you sane too. If your goal is 4 million and you sign on every week and see 3 to 10 jobs that are still sitting
Yeah.
there haven't been addressed yet, that's gonna drive you nuts. And as
That's
it
it. And he's getting stuff that's not even coming through this, it's not coming in through the website. It's not coming in through 11 Labs. Like he's
yeah,
like Let's Pave is starting to send him some stuff in Delaware. Like he's got stuff that's not even built into Leap that we even know that's consuming his time, right? So
yeah,
um there's an element of that. And look, I mean, I feel like we've gotten um I'm looking at Leap, like this automated follow-up tab right now. I feel like that's pretty current. Most of that stuff's pretty new this year, and there's
yeah.
83 jobs and 2.5 million bucks sitting in there and stuff. So,
Yeah, I
which
like
is
this.
great. I mean, that's great activity for a 3-year-old business.
Well, sure, but I mean, it is about when you're talking about what can everyone be looking at individually. I mean, when you come to the sales process, besides making things easier for Josh, that is something. Like we've had the same emails now for a year, and yeah, they worked last year, but like,
Yeah,
what can we add in there that's different or new? You know what I mean? So, is there something that's more topical and relevant this year that we can do to improve it? If nothing else, I feel like we can maybe improve the tone a little bit more to make Josh sound a little bit more genuine.
yeah,
But I mean, it's as I said, it's yeah. I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just figuring out how we adapt and change this year to where it matches and everyone has some new goals that will be heading in the right direction.
yeah.
When are you back to normal as far as staffing next week in the field?
Well, Tony's out next week, so
Okay.
we've got one more week. Yeah, I probably still need to be out there to some extent for at least the next 30 days. And maybe that's just me being out there as a trainer. Just get my hands, let Andre run the paver. We've done it. We've got a good crew. We don't have a lot of experience. We let go of some experience because they weren't a great culture fit. And that's fine. Like that's exactly what we want to do. I mean, we're building something real here now that can sustain itself with systems and accountability and goals and vision. And we had to get rid of some of the folks that didn't align with that. So, but we're making strides, and we're getting a little better every day. And we just need to let the guys learn.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Yeah. And I think if I'm sure you're in contact with Josh, but if you want to say something specific, like, um, just like you told me, in 1 week, I should be able to pull out a little bit more. I'd love to sit down and schedule some time to figure out how to make this easier on you, like where you need help and what type of jobs you need me to pick up or what I'm not seeing. Um,
Yeah. And I don't mind picking up the bullshit. Like if he,
yeah,
I mean,
I
he
know you
just,
don't.
I didn't even know this one came in the door because it came. I mean, look at the first job in automated follow up is if it makes sense for him to I don't mind handling the driveway work. Um, if that mean even if that doesn't necessarily mean that I go and meet with every single one because look for the last 2.5 years I didn't go meet with 80% of these folks.
Yeah.
Like it was literally all digital. I mean, it was all done off of email, text, maybe a phone call to clarify a few things. And I was putting them a proposal together, getting the measurements off Google, putting a map together, making it look as good as I could. And I think our proposal looks good and people were closing. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've gotten really fast at that. Like I've gotten really fucking efficient at that
Yeah.
because I had to, because I was doing most of it from the top of a paver. So
Yeah.
Um, if it just makes sense for me to handle the small stuff and get it, and but also don't want to just be pumping them out if that's not yielding a good closing ratio either. Is it,
Sure.
if there's 100 jobs and we're only closing 10 of them because we're not doing some of the things other guys may be doing, then, but I don't, I don't know. We're not going to grow this company or hit our goals by, I mean, fuck, how many $5,000 driveways does it take to get to 4 million bucks? 800 of them or something
To
like that?
650,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
How many relationships, do you have to maintain and, make?
Yeah, dude. How much paperwork? How many invoices? How,
So
like,
it does come down to, we had eventually thought, or last year we'd even thought about not even fielding jobs under 7,500. And I completely understand not abandoning or not taking on that mentality right now. But when you think about like getting through this summer, I would think by the end of this year, you are also establishing your own commercial relationships. I feel like if for some reason there isn't enough in the pipeline, that what we have as far as being able to do some cold outreach and stuff like that, that's in the pipeline developing. Like we have that leads list, which is basically if you're riding
yeah,
around and see anything, you can literally get out with your Meta glasses or the Ray-Bans, whichever one we decide on, and you could do a walkthrough. Like that's another thing I think is going to blow people away. If you do the walkthrough of their property, just wear those things, start at the beginning, and then send the footage to me, and I just cut out all the BS. But literally, like you shouldn't have to take pictures anymore. Like I should be able to, you can take it with your glasses while it's recording, or I should be able to pull the frame.
yeah,
And so like when you talk about not only the marketing side, but the professionalism side, that's getting ready to increase for the commercial clients, especially that will care about that. Like I think we might be able to sell more commercial clients by upping our professionalism than homeowners. Like when it comes down to price, the smaller pocketbooks and maybe even the lack of foresight that some of these property management companies have. I think I'm hoping that, you and Josh both get to work. Josh a lot on commercial, you however much you deem worthy, next year as
yeah,
for your company. And then yeah, a salesperson that if maybe they're young, and start with the small stuff just like you have, or whatever you deem worthy. But that's kind of where I see this going. If you have any other thoughts too, feel free to just shoot them my way. So we have about 30 minutes left. We've kind of already been doing the podcast.
we're hitting a little bit. We got some stuff we could probably even produce.
I might just go ahead and roll with a quick introduction and
Yep,
just explain like we're going to you probably have already been listening to us about the meeting, but we wanted to get to this podcast first and foremost because of these oil prices and then ask you about how you're changing your strategy.
sure.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we're here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, it has been since about early January since we got to sit down and record a podcast. A lot
Man,
has happened. Well, obviously it was a big prep time for the season. We have AOS, which we'll tap on that here in a little bit. But how are you? If you want to give us a quick rundown of how you're feeling about the season, anything that really stands out is exciting for you?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. It's crazy that it's been since January that we have recorded an episode, and I think that just tells the story that we've been extremely busy in the off season. A lot of times we think we get a break in the off season. Don't get me wrong. I mean, things were obviously not at the pace they are when we're in full production mode, but we've been busy, man. It's now getting into the third full season of Pave It Forward's existence. We've made a lot of changes. We're really starting, really kind of find our true identity as a company, and really working on culture and sustainability and accountability and team building and open communication. Just put the paving elements and seal coating and pavement maintenance elements to the side. We're really foundationally trying to establish a great company here and a great organization and a place that people want to come to work, be a part of, are inspired by the work we do. We're having some fun. We've uh, we've put a great group of guys. We've been back at work for about 3 weeks now, so uh, we've got a pretty darn good group of guys, and we made some hard decisions in the off season. We over the last couple of years have had a lot of talent on our crews, fortunately, but as we dug a little deeper into finding the right kind of people and building the kind of culture and atmosphere that we want to build, we had to make some hard decisions and not ask a couple of them back, which in turn, as most know, it's hard to do in this industry. The good people are usually already with pretty good companies, and are at a place that they have kind of called home for their careers, and they're hard to change. And that doesn't mean that they won't maybe eventually make themselves towards our direction, but we've brought in some guys with God, I think we've got 7, 8 guys out with us now, and we've got 3 or 4 that have literally very little asphalt paving experience, and so we're just taking time to train them. They're the right kind of folks. They show up with good attitudes. We've been starting early every morning, just kind of trying to break the culture, trying to see, are these folks going to be on time? Are they going to be coachable? Are they going to be teachable? Are they going to have an open mind? Are the guys on the crew going to communicate? Is the leadership going to do a good job communicating and training? And I know it's only 3 weeks in, but so far it's been pretty cool to watch. It's been good so far, and we're just like I said, we're 3 weeks in. April now has begun, so we're going to take about another 30 days and really focus on training, focus on quality, focusing on our standard, meeting customers' expectations, doing things the right way. And then when we get into May and June, we'll kind of switch that, hopefully be able to switch that over to, all right, now let's start figuring out some of our efficiencies, some of our speed. How do we get faster? Where do we eliminate some of the hiccups and be more productive? So it's been a fun start to the season so far, man.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I do want to get to the oil prices here in a second because we are changing our pricing due to the increase of the price of the purchase of the asphalt due to several factors, mostly the war. But I want to dig in just a little bit to so many people reach out to you about hiring and staff and stuff like that. So I wanted to just kind of dive into how you decided to pick people. I could dive in. We went through Google Ads for our ads. We have done.
Yep.
We actually started with social media ads, which we've always done a little bit in the past, but we really wanted to try Google Ads, switching it up because Google Ads, people are actually searching for jobs, and Facebook and Instagram ads, it's kind of interrupting what they're doing. So we wanted to see if there were enough people that were actively searching on Google for manual labor jobs and asphalt paving jobs and CDL jobs specifically. So we did end up getting enough. I think we probably ended up having 3 CDL applications altogether and maybe another 8 to 10 on in the field. Feel free to correct those numbers, but from there, how did you go about talking to these people? What was the process like, and how did you end up ultimately selecting a few?
Yeah, those numbers are about right, and fortunately, we've got our final CDL guy. starting next week, actually. So we've got our trucks filled. And you're right. I think the Google ad space really helped us at least find people that were actually interested in coming to work and were legitimately looking for employment. I've been doing this a long time, and we've used Facebook, we've used social media, we've used LinkedIn, we've used Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and my God, I don't know how many applicants we'll get that we can't even get back in touch with them or get a hold of them. The one thing we used to do poorly in the past was if they had a pulse or we actually got a hold of them, we would just go ahead and get them in for the interview. Like, we're like, hey, just warm body, come in, let's talk. We took more of an approach this year of doing some of that initial talk or pre-screening, even some interviewing over the phone to make sure that the folks we were getting in here to take our time actually kind of passed that pre-qualification screening, if you will. So we weren't wasting a lot of time setting up a bunch of appointments for people to come in and go through the interview process just to find out, whoa, we're way off the mark here. So I think that helped. We still got, I don't know how many folks we still got. We set some interviews up with that never show up. I think I think that's not just unique to our industry, but I think that you could ask several employers in any space about that and say you just get people that change their mind or don't show up or oversleep or whatever it might be. Some of those folks out there are just saying, having to fill out their unemployment forms and having to give three names of places they've called to try to line up an interview. So
Sure.
I think we were a little more intentional, at least in the pre-qualification phase this time around. And we're still hiring. Like, we've definitely got one crew staff. We've probably got one and a quarter crew staffed. Honestly, we're probably carrying an extra guy or two, but we've also got the intention of it's going to be sooner rather than later that we're going to need to break a prep crew off and start operating as two crews. And then if we want to make the decision to promote our seal coating and pavement maintenance side of this business any heavier, we've got some guys in the fold already that have experience on the prep side, on the seal coating pavement maintenance side. So we're intentionally trying to overstaff a little bit with the hope and data that sales are going to increase and we're going to need to become a little more productive and not necessarily having 6 to 8 guys out there prepping jobs, because that's eventually, well, not eventually, it already is, kind of eating into that bottom line profit margin. So efficiencies are something we're focused on. So we're still running some ads. We've got still a couple guys that I think are going to come in the next week or two and give us a shout and see where we go from there, man.
Nice. Yeah, that's really nice to have a little bit of an abundance of, what you need right now, especially when you
It
look at
is.
a core group, maybe 90% of it you feel pretty confident, maybe less than that. What do you think? Confident as far as the percentage of your hired crew right now that you're like, these guys are going to be with me for a few years if things go well.
Yeah, I mean, so far, and look, again, it's only week 3 and it hadn't gotten hot yet, so that's always the true test when temperatures warm up. Tempers usually warm up as well, or they can,
Yeah.
and that's really why we're trying to really focus on the vision and the culture and the communication early, and just keep that consistent. Because if we can build a good team of guys that can work well together and communicate well together, then I don't think we'll have as many of those issues that typically can pop their heads when it gets a little warmer outside and the days get a little longer and we start to push. We're spending, we worked 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks in March. We've got a 5 week April. So, we've got 7, 8 weeks here that we're going to be pretty intentional on setting the standard, setting the culture, setting the accountability, and really honing in on training. And then come May, mid-May to June, I mean, we really got to kind of make that switch to where we start we really got to get the quality down first. We've got to get that piece that the consumer is expecting, the deliverable to be. We've got to get that right first, and then we'll start working on speed and getting a little faster and getting a little more efficient, getting a little more productive, maybe squeezing out an extra job a day, whatever that may look like. So we're very intentional on the training aspect, and it's good because we do have so many. I won't say so many, but we've got enough guys with minimal experience that we've got. It's nice to kind of be able to slow down as a company and as a crew and spend some time doing the training, because I think it's ultimately in the long run going to affect even the guys that have been doing this a long time. So we're kind of getting back to the basics. You got to run before, you got to walk before you run. You got to crawl before you walk. So we're in that crawl walk phase a little bit right now, and just getting all the mechanics down before we start jogging, and then hopefully win the season in a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. Sprint to that finish line. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really neat, for companies out there who are, just getting started or, maybe restarting, having to really, scratch a few elements of their company and rebuild. It is neat that, year three, uh, we actually get to plan these things out and then see how it goes, rather than just like,
yeah,
let's make sure we have enough of in every single aspect of our company just to function, whether it be enough crew, enough jobs, enough sales, enough CRM
yeah, man.
functionality, enough financial insight. But I'm just going to review a few things here that we have noted for the off season that we did to kind of set this up, and then you can kind of jump in and comment on whatever you want. But we put together our first crew playbook. We're going to put
Yep,
these handbooks around the office and in every car, and we went through and gave each role in the company a key list of responsibilities and expectations, and then you went over those things through an orientation, and on March
we did.
17th. Yeah, anything about that? Obviously, in seasons past, you had the previous company where you did have a little bit of format, and the past 2 years with a new company, you had a few guys you'd get together and get the mission together. But, as you said, you didn't even have a shop at that point. It'd just be kind of gathering on job site and trying to put them together. So between the playbook and the orientation, can you just kind of give us some thoughts on maybe what was really went well for you? Maybe something that, for next time you maybe want to improve upon, or really just any thoughts that might be useful to people that are trying to get a crew together and motivate them at the beginning of a season.
Yeah, dude, I think it was nice just to have some structure to it this season, man. It's like you said, the first 2 years of this business, I mean, it was survival mode, and now we get to kind of, we've got the playbook and we've got the vision, we've got the things that we want, this company to be when it grows up. But it's been pretty informal up until this point. It's most of the meetings that we had, took place at either just having lunch somewhere or on the job site, or it was just nice to be able to get everybody together under a roof at our office. We've got a pretty nice gathering space where we meet every morning before we go out to work, man. We come in at 6:30 every morning. We spend 15 to 20 minutes just kind of hanging out, going over things. So I think the biggest takeaway was, yes, it was a structured and more formal orientation, but I really think it's lending to the camaraderie that I'm seeing between the guys. Like we've kind
Mm.
of all got our space now, and this is starting to feel like home. And because especially during the season, we probably spend more time doing this than we do with our families by a long shot. So it goes with the vision, it goes with the why, it goes with the cult. Why are we doing this? And just being able to do that in a space in more of a, and it was relaxed. I say a formal setting just because it's inside of an office with a space that we can all gather is what made it formal. But really just seeing the camaraderie and people really just starting to believe in what we're doing here was probably the biggest takeaway for me.
Nice. Yeah, we have so much to go over. We're actually hitting up against the wall here. We will be getting into a future episode where we're going to start implementing some fleet management as far as getting some diagnostics on the paver, and then also tracking some of our fleet as far as trucks, dump trucks, equipment, etc. So we'll report back on that in an upcoming episode. We also are trying a new clock in method, which seems to be going well. And then
That's
also
been
we'll
going well, man.
and then we'll also be getting into the shop infrastructure as well. I'm actually going to be making a visit there. We will definitely be talking more about this in the future as far as what we're toying around with Kevin, doing a little bit of experimentation for Pave It Forward. So maybe we can help more companies kind of gather these systems together in the future. But one thing I did want to get to before we ran out of time, because it directly affects your bottom line, and that is the oil price increase. I'm just going to read a couple headlines here as far as what's going on, and then Kevin, I'll kind of toss it to you as far as how we've decided to handle that. It's no secret by now that oil prices and gas prices are going up, mostly, if not all, due to the Iran war right now. One index moved from 638 to 730 per ton in a single month. A 10% increase in crude translate. A $10 increase in crude translate to a 2 to 3% rise in asphalt costs. And so that right there is almost $100 raise. So that means asphalt prices could be going up as much as 20 to 30% sometime in the future. There are several good articles out there that I'll be happy to link to in our show notes. Basically, higher material costs. Diesel costs go up. It affects hauling. It affects equipment. You decided on some numbers for Pave It Forward. We're going to start off with these going forward. We also sent an email out, but how did you first hear about this, and what was the decision process like to decide what you're going to increase and share that with your sales?
Yeah, man. It's a real thing, and it's an unfortunate conversation that we have to have with some of our consumers who have not signed contracts yet. I mean, that's one thing, and we're gonna have to get a clause in our contracts going forward. So, and we have it in there in some regard at this point about
General terms, yeah.
rising. We're not in control of liquid asphalt pricing. But we may need to make that a little clearer, a little bolder on our proposals going forward, because it's just a cost that uh, we can't go out and perform tomorrow, based on yesterday's or even the first quarter's pricing. I mean, it's just not feasible. We'll run ourselves into the ground quicker than anything. So yeah, I mean, we got notice this week from the plants that we do business with. We saw about a 10% increase per ton on asphalt. So
Yeah.
it went up from, I'll just use averages just to make it simple. Let's call it $60 a ton up to 65, 66. So that's a 10% increase. And not to mention, I mean, you said it too, man. Everything we operate or run is running on diesel or some kind of fuel. I mean, we've seen diesel prices over the winter go from $3 a gallon up to $5 a gallon now. So I mean, it's that's almost that's almost 100% increase in fuel costs. So we've got to be mindful of that stuff. We can't just continue to operate on pricing that's worked for the last couple of years, because it's just not the same game right now. Hopefully things will lighten up and things can get back to a little more normal. But in these times, you've got to be aware enough to be protecting your business, to make sure we're not going out and doing stuff for practice every day, because
Mm.
you take the fuel between the dump trucks and the equipment and the increased cost of material. I mean, you can eat up your profit margin right there almost. I mean,
Yeah.
literally. So
Yeah.
it's we've had to make some adjustments. People need to be mindful of that.
Well, I think this is a topic. Well, also we're going to plan on trying to hop back into a more regular recording pattern. But I think this is something that's going to take just some give and take, because obviously you want to try to give the customer a little bit of leeway. So maybe there's some kind of, well, honor honor the quote within this amount of time, but after a week, like, we just can't absorb it, or maybe
Yeah.
making sure that they know up front that it could raise by a certain amount, but maybe we guarantee it won't raise by more than this. I don't know, but this is going to take some thought and some research, see how other people are dealing with this. Maybe it's as simple as just making sure that whatever price is truly calculated for that job is in there, and you just make that raise, in your prices, and it kind of covers your butt. Maybe you lose a few jobs because you're not as low as someone else, because you programmed in there a little bit more margin. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And something we have our eye on is the sales from this year from last year. We have
Yeah.
we have more leads. Leads are definitely up, but sales are down. And so we're going to take it upon ourselves first to look internally. What are we doing differently, that may be causing that, but there's just something else going on. And but we plan on reporting back as much as we can as far as what's working, what's not. Kevin, as far as today's episode though, we will need to be wrapping up. Any last thoughts for the people before we head out today?
No, man, just start of the season for most of us. Just be intentional with your crews, with your training, and maybe I'm just talking to myself right now, but be intentional with your leadership and making yourself available and communicating with your staff, your lead, and not just your leaders, like your entire staff if you can. We're all human. We're all people just trying to earn a living and do better, a little bit better every day. So I tell my guys that all the time. Like we just get 1% better every day. That's all we can ask for. So just wishing
I
everybody the best of luck, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year. Yeah, so don't forget about check those quotes. Be thinking about that yourself with the oil prices. Definitely check in with your local distributors if you need to about pricing. Hopefully they've updated you as far as that goes. Otherwise, Kevin, thanks for your time. Everyone else out there, we'll be
Yeah.
back soon with another episode, and we'll see you soon.